Hey guys, how is it going? Welcome back to a brand new video. Today, boys and girls, we are in the new snapshot of Minecraft 20W45A, baby. That's right, and we have some new blocks. They're in front of me, as you can see, and we're going to make a little video on how you guys can maybe use some of these things in some of your builds. So first, let's get the rundown of what these new blocks actually are. We have the new calcite block, which is kind of like a marble sort of looking block. We then have the tough. Don't know what that's supposed to mean, but it does look pretty cool. We also have the amethyst blocks. Now, these things are probably one of the favorite things they've added, because we also have the cluster, which is kind of like amethyst crystal, right? And as you can see, it's pretty purty. We then have candles, which is a very interesting addition to the game. Didn't think they'd be adding these, but they also look amazing, especially for decorations. We also have the tinted glass, which is, you know, kind of like stained glass, but tinted. We then have copper ore and these fancy new copper blocks. We kind of have the weathered copper block in this greeny color, and then we have this waxed copper block in, well, like a copper color. You know how it is? And the best thing about these blocks, just here, the block of amethyst, dude, they sound pretty amazing. Check this out. Thank me later for that, because boy, does that just not sound majestic. Okay, so the first building idea is directly in front of me, and boys and girls, this is probably my favorite thing in this video. Can you see me? Bam. Oh my days. Look how amazing this looks. Now, this is supposed to be the Cave and Mountain update. I am aware of that, but I just kind of created this little kind of cavey fantasy corner with some of the new blocks they've given us in this snapshot, because of course, not all the blocks are going to be in at the moment. But my oh my, does this look pretty amazing. So what do we actually have? So I've been using the, what we call it, calcite blocks, mixing with a little bit of the white concrete powder, just like inside at the back of the cave walls. And then behind this, within the layers, we have the crystal blocks. And in front of that, we actually have the crystal blocks themselves, which you can actually see, we have different sizes. So we have small, we then have medium, we then have large, and then we have like a cluster, which is the big kind of big guy right here. And dudes, I just think this is an absolute game changer. We also have the copper ore thrown in the mix with all that kind of texturing, and I also use the new tough block in and around kind of the water, because this block kind of reminds me of maybe a more damp kind of looking block, so it would maybe be around where like the water is corroding or eroding the rocks and stuffs around them. We also added a few of the little candle blocks just because we can, and they do look pretty amazing. But boys and girls, what do you think? The amethyst crystals actually also emit light, which is super helpful when you're placing them in caves and such, because yeah, you can actually see, which is pretty amazing. Only thing I'm missing right now is the shaders mod, because you know, dude, we'd be loving the shaders mod in our videos. For default Minecraft, this ain't looking too shabby. And once again, this is not a tutorial. I didn't mean to do that, but that does bring me on. You can place these little crystals under the water, which is pretty sweet too. And if I quickly just jump up onto this lily pad, what was I saying? Oh yeah, this isn't a tutorial. It's just to kind of give you guys some ideas and some inspiration on what you can be using these new blocks for in the newest update and snapshot. Take it in, because my oh my, it does look pretty amazing. Okay, so design ideas number 2. You may remember this build. It's the bank. We built a few videos back, and you guys really seemed to like it. So I figured I'd take it upon myself to change a few of the textures on here to kind of show you how effective using the calcite blocks and using those to texture your builds can be. So I've kind of swapped out all the quartz around the build with the calcite kind of white concrete powder mix, and it just makes the build look so much more interesting. Don't you just think, like I said, if you want to go back and build this, there is a tutorial, and of course I did use quartz blocks before, but switching those out for the calcite and concrete powder mix really does add a lot of depth to this build. On the kind of sides, I did it on the bottoms, not so much on the top, but as you can see, it makes the build look a lot more interesting and adds a lot more depth in my opinion. And like I said in the beginning, it kind of does be looking like marble. As you can see, it's kind of got that I don't know, smooth stony texture inside of it, but it's really nice and clean looking as well. I also went ahead and used the tough blocks as a path all the way around, and that don't look too shabby either. It's kind of like a more clean looking cobblestone. And on the top of the roof, this now brings me to the new copper blocks, and these are the semi-waxed weather copper, and I've kind of mixed those in with also the like cut copper slabs as well. And this definitely reminds me of buildings you'd see in like Manhattan and New York, where they actually did used to use copper on a lot of the roofs. And you'll see a few of the buildings in and around New York actually do have this greeny blue texture to it, where the copper has simply been weathered. And I also added a few of them in and around this little section as well. But I definitely think the green kind of color and tones make for a more interesting palette. So if I kind of take a little step back here, and you guys can just see what before was a pretty plain quartzy looking build is really been spiced up with the new kind of calcite blocks and the texture palettes, with also the copper, which I think looks really good on the roof. Now, speaking of using the copper on the roofs, I did rebuild these two little village houses. They do be looking kind of snazzy, and the villagers seem to be enjoying it. How you doing? But if I fly up just here, you can see I kind of threw a little texture palette together of the wax semi-weathered cut copper and just the weathered cut copper. Now, if we go and find these blocks in our inventories, as you can notice, there isn't actually too much of a difference. They're just very subtle, which I like, because we have the super clean versions, then we kind of have the rusty, weathered look, and that is going to be so good when people are kind of building in different styles and also in different time zones. And it also works very well with the spruce, stony, medieval looking combo. And as I was building, these blocks definitely started to grow on me, and they're probably one of my like favorite things they've actually added into this newer snapshot. And I'll be super interested to see what kind of different things they also add. We also added a few of the little candles just up front here because my oh my, they are pretty special. On the walls of this house, I also use a little white concrete powder and calcite texture mix because it's just one of my favorites at the moment, baby. I just think it looks so good, and they work really well together. A nice and clean texture palette. Alrighty, so next up, we're going to be looking at the candles mostly, and I just wanted to lay them all out and show you what colors are actually in the game, just in case you didn't know or you haven't seen them just yet. So we have the normal candle. It's just kind of like this beigey tan kind of color, kind of like the birch in the background. We then have white candles. We have orange. We also have magenta, which is pretty funky. We also have light blue, yellow, green, a pink. We got black, we got red, we got green, we got brown, we got a dark blue or just a normal blue, we have purple, and we have cyan. So pretty much all our normal Minecraft colors were our concrete, our walls, but in candles, which I think is super cool. Kind of allows you to spice up your build and add a little splash of color to the candles if you wish to do so. Now, swinging around just here, I've actually laid out a few little things you could be using these candles for. So I've just mainly used the tan, the white, and the black. If I just clear my inventory just here, so we have a little more space to work with. Here, I've just put the candles on the shelf, as you do. Very simple, but still, you guys might want to use this in your builds. Next up, the candles actually sit perfectly flush on top of an emerald. Now, it's pretty sad because when you have these candles, you're going to want your particles turned all the way to maximum. Now, when you do that, the emerald is kind of going to have its little particles flying around it and such, which kind of looks a little bit weird. But hey, it is what it is, and it still does look pretty sweet. Now, next to this, we actually also have the gray candle on top of a chain. And the chains were added in the last update, right? And they're probably some of my favorite decorations in the game. So being able to put a candle on top of this just looks really good and will look amazing in things like castles and old medieval houses and manors. And then just up here, I've got the little chain and trapdoor combo, kind of putting the two together. And this is what we kind of have. Now, the candles, you can actually place one singular. You can then do 2, 3, or 4. So you have a few variants to work with and kind of have a little selection to choose how you actually use them. So right here, I've kind of built a little example of how you could be using these candles in your day-to-day Minecraft builds. Now, of course, I've put them on a dining room table, which is where you see a lot of candles in a lot of households. People just like putting candles everywhere. I know my wife absolutely loves candles. She kind of has a little bit of an obsession with them. As you can see here, they go really nicely with all the kind of wood textures that going around. I've actually used the birch and the spruce on the wall, and then the oak textures on the floor, and the table itself is also made of spruce. If I fly back, you guys can actually create this table yourselves. It's super easy and it looks very nice. I've also put some candles up on the shelf just here behind the dining room set, and I think altogether it works for some really nice interior design. And also, if we look just behind the dining room, I tried to incorporate some of the new tinted glass blocks just to kind of give you guys a little idea on how you could be using those as well, and they do look pretty sweet. Now, it's not really different to the normal stained glass we have, so it's a little bit weird they added it, but I'm curious to know if they're going to find any other uses for this block. They do look a little different though. They've got a nice tint to it, and they have these kind of white little streaks going through them. So I put them there just to kind of give you an idea of maybe how to use those also. That is it, guys, for this video. Just a quick one to give you some ideas on how to use the new blocks in the 1.17 snapshot. If you did enjoy, don't forget to subscribe, leave a like on this video. It really does help me out. I love your faces, and I'll see you in my next Minecraft video. Bye, guys.